Hello class. Today I'd like to tell you just a little bit about fraction and decimal equivalents. I've written the word decimal equivalents. We're acquainted with fractions. We've been doing those for quite a while if you've been in my class. And if you haven't been in my class and you're watching this, you may have had this before, you may not have. But a fraction is simply a part of a number. And you're acquainted with 1/2, 1/4, and 3/4. And there's some other fractions over here we'll get to in a bit. It's easy to visually see it 1/2, right? Half the pie, 1/4 of the pie. That's one piece of pie was eaten out of 4 pieces. And 3/4 of the pie. You were very hungry and you ate 3/4. You ate 3 pieces of the 4. You ate 3/4. There are fraction decimal equivalents. So you're going to go on, as you get into upper grades, you're going to go on and you're going to learn what is the decimal equivalent to that fraction. So one way to illustrate that is to simply think of your piggy bank. Here's a nice piggy bank. There's actually a couple piggy banks here. And in your piggy bank, you decided that you were going to collect some money and put some money in there. And in your piggy bank, you have something called a quarter, don't you? This is going to help us visualize this. Let's look at the first one, 1/4 here. It's actually not the first one written, but the one here we'll talk about first. 1/4. Now, I like to use a quarter for this because how much of a dollar is a quarter? It's 1/4, that's right, isn't it? It takes 4 quarters to make a dollar. So we could say that a quarter is 1/4 of a dollar because it takes 4 of these to make $1. And we know that hopefully by now. Well, how much is a quarter worth? It's worth 25 cents, isn't it? So that's one illustration that will greatly help you memorize the decimal equivalent for 1/4. Because the decimal equivalent for 1/4 is 0.25 or decimal point 25. A quarter's worth 25 cents, 0.25 as a decimal. So that will help you memorize it. We also, if we know that a quarter is 25 cents, look at our fraction 3/4. We have 1/4 or 1/4 of a dollar. What is 3/4 of a dollar? How much is 3/4? 3/4. Did you say 75 cents? Yes, 25, 50, 75 cents, right? So we could say 3/4 is 75 cents, or 25 times 3 equals 75. And you are going to memorize for 3/4 the decimal equivalent, 0.75. Again, if you think of quarters, this won't be hard. You can think of 3/4 as 75 cents or 0.75 and memorize 3/4 equals 0.75. Then we have our half. Now, 1/4 is 25 cents. So 2/4 is what? 25.50, right? Or we could also say there's another coin right here called a $1/2. A $1/2 is worth 50 cents. Or 2/4 is also worth 50 cents. So we're just going to write 0.50 or 0.50 is the decimal equivalent for 1/2. So today I want you to memorize 1/2 equals 0.5 or 0.50. 1/4 equals 0.25. And 3/4 equals 0.75. That's 0.50. 0.5 or 0.50, 0.25, and 0.75. You should be able to memorize those. For the fractions, 1/2, 1/4, and 3/4. Memorize those today. Now we also have some other fractions, and I'm going to stand up and come over here for this. We have 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, and 4/5. Now here's how we can memorize these. You need to memorize the decimal equivalent for these. It's going to help you out immensely in grades to come as you go on to other grades. And you need to quickly know what the decimal equivalent is, because you're going to have to do all these other things in arithmetic class. And you're not going to be able to have to sit there and try to think of what it is. Although you can figure it out by simply dividing the denominator into the numerator. You can do this. I can take my denominator and I can divide it into my numerator, all right? 5 can't go into 1, but if I put a decimal point there and a 0, just put a decimal point there, bring it up into your answer and your quotient, and I can go 5 goes into 10 2 times. The decimal equivalent is 0.2. And I could do that with all of these. But I don't want you to have to do that. I want you to memorize that 1/5 equals 0.2. It's going to save you a lot. Now, obviously, we can't memorize the decimal equivalent for every number, but there are some fraction and decimal equivalents that are used a lot, that if you will just memorize these ones, it will help you out immensely. There's several you should memorize, but for today, we're just going to narrow it down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different ones. And then maybe in another video, we'll add to our repertoire or our bank of memorized fraction decimal equivalents, all right? Now this isn't too hard if you think about this. Look, see how all of these have a 5 in the denominator? And then the numerator, there's a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4, right? 5/5 we don't worry about because it would just be 1, right? So 2 decimal point 4 decimal point 6 decimal point 8. Do you see how easy that is if you really think about it, just to memorize? 2, 4, 6, 8, if we're in order. Now, obviously, they won't always be in order, but you can multiply the numerator by 2 and get the answer when your denominator's a 5. So something to think about. 2, 4, 6, 8. It's just 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, and 0.8. I want to look at something for a minute there, make sure there wasn't something I was forgetting. So do that, all right? Memorize the fraction and decimal equivalent for each of these. And you will have the tool needed to unlock other things you need to know how to do. Because you're going to have to go on and say, oh, let's find 1/5 is what percent of 60? Well, you have to know the decimal in order to figure out the percent. And it's going to save you a lot of time by already knowing what the decimal is in order to change it to a percent later on. So today, learn these decimal fraction equivalents, make flashcards, memorize them, and this will greatly help you to do well in the days and weeks to come in your math and arithmetic lessons. So until next time, you take care. If you like this video, click like. If you would like to subscribe and get more videos, go ahead and click subscribe. And you take care, do well, and remember, learn something new every day. Bye for now.